guarding the nation. During his remarks to the members of the ENDF, he indicated the efforts being undertaken to build a modern national defense force that pays allegiance to the unity and territorial integrity of the country. He further thanked the members of the NDF for demonstrating compassion in the line of duty towards apprehended TPLF fighters and in adherence to their military code of conduct. Moving on to humanitarian response updates in the northern part of the country. This is data that has been received from the National Disaster Risk Management Commission, which is part of the Emergency Coordination Committee at the federal level. I will break it down into updates of the 3 regions where humanitarian assistance is being provided. In Tigray, to begin with, humanitarian flights for personnel, cargo, and cash is still ongoing, and movement is being undertaken from Addis Ababa to Mekelle through the UN Humanitarian Air Service flight. A new thing that has transpired over the past week is an EU humanitarian air bridge has also started humanitarian flights to Tigray region. As of September 14, 2021, 32 partners have been granted permits to transport a total of Ethiopian birr 144 million to Mekelle for their humanitarian operations. And this is something that will continually go based on evaluations that is being undertaken by the committee. Humanitarian partners that include the World Food Programme and GOP, which is a CRS-led consortium, are currently operating within the Tigray region and dispatching food to waradas and distributing to beneficiaries. The data that I have, or the report that I have, as of September 14, 2021, humanitarian partners have deployed 590 trucks to transport humanitarian cargo from Samara to Mekelle. 15,000 or more than 50,000 metric tons of food has been transported, which includes wheat, oil, pulse, corn, soybean. More than or close to 6,000 metric tons of non-food items have been transported. Close to 760,000 liters of fuel has also been transported, and over 1,000 metric tons of seed has also been transported to enable agricultural activities. As of September 14, 2021, no trucks are stranded in Samara and checkpoints at this moment. Since checkpoints have been decreased from 7 to 2 checkpoints, the movement of humanitarian assistance into the region has been further amplified and facilitated by the government, and no access issues have been noted as a result. Resultantly, the often raised challenges by humanitarian actors has been lifted. Although this issue has been addressed to facilitate smooth flow, the number of trucks being dispatched by humanitarian actors has not increased. So we have a situation where checkpoints have been decreased from 7 to 2. All of these obstacles that had been reiterated several times by humanitarian actors have now been facilitated for a smooth humanitarian flow by reducing these checkpoints. Nevertheless, we are witnessing that there's not a high number of trucks with humanitarian assistance that is entering, and this is the responsibility of humanitarian actors. Relatedly, what I would like to emphasize is this is specific to one agency. Of 466 trucks that have entered the region to deliver humanitarian assistance, 428 trucks are yet to exit the region. So what we're witnessing is perhaps close to 40 trucks are the only ones that have exited the region. So this is raising speculation on their utility as it relates to delay in return to other regions where humanitarian assistance is being loaded onto these trucks. Moving on to the Afar region, the government, together with the World Food Programme, is mobilizing resources for internally displaced persons whose situation has been aggravated by TPLF's provocations and attacks. As of September 14, 2021, the Disaster Risk Management Commission and WFP have distributed over 10,000 quintals of food for more than 70,000 displaced people. Assisted beneficiaries are IDPs from 6 waradas in the Afar region. Similarly, the food consists of wheat flour, rice, corn-soy blend, pulse oil, and wheat. And this response will be continuing by the government and humanitarian partners. Specifically for Afar as well, food assistance has been secured through to October 2021. Lastly, on humanitarian assistance within the Amhara region, the number of displaced persons has exceeded more than 500,000, as had been stated the last time. Internally displaced persons are mainly from Wagamra, North Gondar, South Gondar, North Wallo, and South Wallo zones of the region. IDPs who have been displaced from different waradas in North Wollo due to TPLF's provocations and attacks, and currently sheltered in Dese town have reached over 270,000. As of September 14, 2021, the National Disaster Risk Management Commission and partners have distributed over 27,000 quintals of food for IDPs in Dese town. More than 178,000 beneficiaries have been reached as a result, per reports that have been received. 9 trucks loaded with 2,670 quintals of food have been dispatched to IDPs in the Wagamra zone. As of September 8, 2021, 5 trucks have reached and unloaded 1,940 quintals of food for North Wollo beneficiaries who have been in Dawant Warada, and Orda distributed the food for over 11,000 beneficiaries, and this is a local agency that has been tasked with the distribution of food, while WFP is the main partner that is acting in the region. However, assistance to some waradas in the northern part of Wollo that are besieged by the terrorist group TPLF have been hindered. As you know, North Wollo is one of the areas under the Safety Net program and prone to food insecurity. As such, TPLF's hindrance for humanitarian actors to reach civilians in need is worsening the situation. Not only has the terrorist group destroyed the livelihood of people in the region, but it is also holding hostage the people of North Wollo and systematically blocking assistance from reaching these people who are in need. Coordination mechanism as it pertains to assistance, particularly for the newly affected regions. The Regional Emergency Coordination Center has been also activated in Bahar Dar and Samara town to closely work with the National Emergency Coordination Center. I had mentioned also that incident command posts had been created in the Afar region as well, and a further update is that this has been activated in Gondar and Dese town to further strengthen the communication and coordination mechanism on the ground level. Relevant federal ministries and regional sector bureaus are assigned expertise in the coordination platforms, and all clusters, which include food, WASH programs, health, education, shelter, and agriculture, are also members of the Emergency Coordination Center. In stakeholder meetings held with international humanitarian organizations as recent as yesterday, partners have been advised to scale up their assistance to beneficiaries in the Amhara and Afar regions who have been displaced from their homes and livelihoods affected by the TPLF. So assistance to these 2 regions warrants the same level of intensity and support shown, as there are those who are in desperate need in these regions due to TPLF's incursions. So this message has been emphasized to humanitarian partners that the assistance that goes to the Amhara region and the Afar region needs also the same level of concern and focus as has been for the other region. Lastly, before I open it up to questions, among the many key milestones, when we're reviewing some of the key milestones of the concluded Ethiopian year 2013, one of the key milestones that has been achieved is the successful conclusion of the 6th national elections, with the exception of some areas, and these areas that for security reasons at that point in time in June when the elections had been going on were not part of it. They will be undertaking elections within the next week, and people will be going to the polls to cast their vote. But this is still a monumental moment for the country, for having in a year of many upheavals and also a lot of triumphs, to have successfully concluded the 6 national elections. And the peaceful conclusion of the elections has been monumental for Ethiopia in the country's journey to democratizing, and the results of the elections have given legitimacy to a government of the people. Resultantly, October 4, 2021 will mark the formation of a new government that will continue paving the path for a new dispensation for Ethiopia. So this is something that's upcoming within the next 2 weeks. So with these minor updates, I will open it up to address questions from your end, and we'll start from this end. Robbie, Iskander, Krum, and then we'll come to this section. Robbie.
Thank you for the briefing. Last week you mentioned that the TPLF was no longer present in Afar, and I know you just gave an update now about preparations to get more aid into Tigray via Samara. As I understand it, since September 7th, there haven't been any new trucks that have gone in, so I was just wondering why that would be the case if there's no longer hostilities in that part of the country, and if the TPLF's incursion is no longer a factor. And then secondly, you mentioned the Prime Minister's visit to the Western Command. He was widely quoted by media there as referring to the military operations as a quote-unquote training exercise, and I was wondering if you could clarify what he meant by that, and is there not a risk of trivializing or of being perceived to trivialize the deaths of soldiers who have been involved and civilians who have been caught up in the conflict? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Robbie. You mentioned that as of September 7th, there has not been trucks that have been going into the region. I think it's important to direct or redirect these questions to humanitarian actors that have the responsibility and the mandate to deliver humanitarian assistance within the Tigray region. There are certain pockets that the federal government, particularly within Western Tigray, that is tasked with delivering humanitarian assistance, and that responsibility is being undertaken by the federal government. But as I was mentioning to you, only from the 400-something trucks that had gone into the region, there is speculation for what they're being utilized because these trucks have to return. But again, these checkpoints have been reduced. A lot of the challenges humanitarian actors have insisted were in place for them to effectively deliver humanitarian assistance. All those have been removed. The area and the corridor is now accessible. So I think it's important to determine with humanitarian actors what are the challenges from their own end that is maybe hindering them from providing assistance to the region. But from the federal government side, this has been facilitated and taken care of. With regards to your query on the Prime Minister's visit to the Western Command, it's quite interesting because this is on New Year's Day to have been amidst the National Defense Forces. It shows the solidarity and it shows the support for those that have lost their lives, that have made many sacrifices, and among a plethora of agendas and activities that the Prime Minister is tasked with, to have been there physically is to show support, to give a moral boost to the overall national defense architecture, and show solidarity, as I was saying, as the Prime Minister represents the people. So amongst all of the things that he has said, particularly shedding light on Ethiopia's ambition to strengthen as part of its military reforms, or the military sector and the security sector reforms, as part of the aspirations to build and continue strengthening the national defense forces, to preserve the territorial integrity of the country, to protect citizens. If that is the one aspect of his statement that is going to be expounded on, I really think the triviality that you mentioned is on where the focus is being laid by individuals who are popping that up. But the context in which the Prime Minister was giving the statement is indicating that Ethiopia, as a large country of 110 million, has got security needs, is also working very focused, in a focused manner, on ensuring that the National Defense Forces, as a departure from where it was before, in allegiance to a particular party and a particular group of people, is now a representation of the Ethiopian people as well. So there has been an ongoing military reform exercise. So what he's insinuating is that these aspirations to ensure that not only the composition of the National Defense Forces, but also the strength and also the manner in which it safeguards the people of Ethiopia is something that is being focused on and is encouraging them to be part of that journey. So I really don't want to respond to the other one. Iskander?
Thank you very much. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission briefed the Council on progress made in the joint investigation on alleged human rights violations in Tigray. What did the federal government expect from this investigation? And just this morning, a mass burial was held in Fasmaucha town of South Gondar zone for 52 civilians allegedly massacred by TPLF forces. Will the government request or has already requested for a similar joint investigation into such killings in Amhara and Afar regions? Another question, US Congresswoman Karen Bass said she will hold discussions with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed during her upcoming visit to Ethiopia. Has a meeting been already arranged? Can you confirm that? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Iskandar. On your first question with regards to the UN Higher Commission for Human Rights, the joint investigation, if you recall, the government's disposition when this was initially launched was full cooperation towards the investigation, and the position of the government that all credible, I would like to repeat, allegations of serious human rights violations that have been reported in relation to the situation in Tigray and other parts of the region should be thoroughly investigated. So this is a position that the Ethiopian government still continues to stand by as well. So we are still looking forward to the report that would be coming in November 1. But as you mentioned, the government has also pointed to the temporal scope of the joint investigation, particularly because the findings are limited to, I believe, the cutoff period for the joint investigation was the declaration of the unilateral ceasefire, humanitarian ceasefire by the government. So this really does not put into account the really egregious human rights violations that have been committed by TPLF in the Amhara region, in the Afar region, and I would also dare say within the Tigray region, because the reports that we're getting right now is citizens within the Tigray region are being mobilized to go to the front to support TPLF's senseless war, and those that are not complying, those that are not giving off their children are being attacked, individuals and youth that are being pushed to the war front who have a tendency to return back to their communities are also being killed, saying that you are costing us the war. So all of these egregious rights violations, particularly in Amhara region and Afar region, and also what is happening under the watch of TPLF within the Tigray region, need to also be part of this investigation. So the Ethiopian government holds that, and this has also been shared. So we do hope that there will be an opportunity to address this aspect of it. Nevertheless, the Ethiopian government still is grateful for the measures that have been taken in terms of ensuring this independent investigation had been undertaken on the ground. On your query with regards to Congresswoman Karen Bass's visit to Ethiopia, this is being managed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and as soon as the itinerary is finalized, I'm sure that they will be providing details around that. Thank you, Iskandar.
Thank you so much, Beleni, for the opportunity. My first question this morning, we've read from the verified social media account of the Ethiopian National Defense Force that they're calling on people of Tigray, the youth, the militia, to surrender in exchange for perhaps pardon, protection, and any health services. Can you please confirm this? And also, is there any other call that the government may perhaps reiterating the same fact that the Defense Force is saying in this regard? The second question, again, this morning, we have heard from Cairo that the Foreign Minister of DR Congo, representing his president, has met Egyptian officials in order to begin the AU-led discussions. How is Ethiopia receiving this news, and is there any planned meeting between the three countries, perhaps mediated by the African Union? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Guru. On your first query, the National Defense Forces did issue a statement over the past few days, and this is calling upon citizens within the region of Tigray who are being flocked to the war front by the TPLF, a generation of youth that outside of their desire to engage in this are being pushed in exchange for humanitarian assistance and survival needs. So this call, if you recall, several months ago as well, there has been various statements that had been issued from the government asking TPLF fighters to lay down their arms and surrender. And this call surrender was again amplifying the message that the federal government is wanting to apprehend those in the key leadership structures within the PLF who are responsible for the atrocities that have been committed over the past 10 months of this conflict, who are responsible for the atrocities that have been orchestrated over the past 3 years, and who are the key actors in terms of what has transpired over the past 27 years within Ethiopia, including the architects of ethnic strife within the country as well. So this call had been made before, asking them to lay down their arms, that there would be a blanket amnesty so long as the key people that are wanted are apprehended. So this call by the National Defense Forces is again showing this humanity, because the people of Tigray are our own people as well, and knowing full well that they are being flocked by the TPLF for a purposeless war that the TPLF has engaged in. There's child soldiers. Again, there's new evidence surfacing of new flock of child soldiers that are being also put at the forefront. So this is a message to the people within the Tigray region, as well as their fellow brothers and sisters outside of the country in the diaspora, who keep fueling this aggression, who keep feeding and keep mobilizing for TPLF's continued aggression, to really think about the future of the region and to really think about the youth of Tigray that are being decimated for TPLF's one-sided, claim to power, which is not going to come to pass. So that is the spirit of the NDF's call for surrender. In your reference to the new call for trilateral negotiation, Ethiopia still holds the position and has continued to hold the position that we would like an amicable resolution to this, that it needs to be Africa-focused and Africa-managed. So this new call to resume the talks is something that has been taken positively and is being facilitated by the relevant entities in this regard. Okay, so from this side would be Coletta, Elias, and Brooke. Coletta.
Thanks, Bilene. Just a follow-up question on Girum's question on the issue of the trilateral talks. How genuine will the talks be? I mean, in a situation whereby we're now seeing more diplomatic tension between Sudan and Ethiopia because of the northern conflict in the northern region. Wouldn't this affect probably, is Ethiopia concerned that it might affect the talks, the trilateral talks on the dams? Secondly, we're kind of seeing the humanitarian agencies, for example, WFP, saying that it is calling for more funds because it's running out of funds because of an expanded humanitarian situation in the northern region. We now have 1.7 million people, Afar and Amhara. We're bound to have donor fatigue at some point because the conflict is protracted, and as well on the government side, as you form a new government, you should be able to look out for the rest of the country, not just the northern region. Is there a mechanism that is being planned, maybe apart from that general national dialogue that we have talked about? Is there a mechanism to end this issue non-military way that is being planned by the government specifically for the northern region? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Coletta. Will the talks be genuine? I can't speak on the part of the other parties to the talks, but I can speak to Ethiopia's intentions. Ethiopia has always maintained the position that amicable use of Nile waters is something that Ethiopia is championing for. It has the right to use the Nile waters, and it has always wanted to negotiate in good faith and has always negotiated in good faith. So in terms of the genuinity of the talks, the negotiating side from the Ethiopian end will always go into these talks with the genuine aspect of not causing harm to riparian countries, particularly to our brothers and sisters in the Sudan and to the Egypt as well. This is something that has been consistently being portrayed, and this is a position that Ethiopia still continues to maintain. With regards to the other element that you asked, or the second question that you asked, I still defer back to the same statement that I had given you, which is the upcoming national dialogue, which would facilitate a process that you've talked about towards this. Apart from the donor fatigue, I mean, Ethiopians are also supporting their fellow brothers and sisters, and this call is actually also something that is being put to Ethiopians throughout the country and also in the diaspora to keep supporting, because this aspect of supporting each other is something that's inherent to our culture and our social fabric, and this is something that we still call upon. Even after this challenging phase does cease, will eventually cease as well, but the support to communities that have been displaced, it will take time to also put them back into place. So amplifying this message of support, particularly with Ethiopians in the diaspora and the Ethiopians within, is something that is sought, as our fellow compatriots in different parts of the region are affected by this. But like I said, a new government is information, so we'll look forward to that dispensation and what would come across as part of that. Elias?
Thank you. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was recently in Senegal. Senegal is going to be the host of the upcoming China-Africa Summit, FOCAC. These two leaders have discussion regarding the FOCAC Summit, and generally, what does Ethiopia expect to gain or to present itself in terms of the agenda for the upcoming FOCAC Summit? And is there any preparation in regard to Ethiopia's role or in the FOCAC Summit that's planned, I think, before the end of this year?
Okay, thank you, Elias. The discussions that had been held when the Prime Minister had traveled to Senegal, I had also expounded on it last week, are within the scope of continental support for one another, Pan-Africanist agenda in terms of a common destiny, and ensuring that the path that we have embarked upon, not only as a country, as a region, but also as a continent towards realizing Agenda 2063 is done in a more enhanced manner and with more focus for solidarity among key African countries and the continent as a whole. So as part of that, this is part of the discussion. I don't have anything for you specific to what may have been raised with regards to FOCAC, but this Ethiopia's commitment to work in strengthening relations with China, but also within the context of being part of the African Union and also strengthening these ties as part of Africa-China relations is something that will continue as part of the strategy that had been adopted before as well. Thank you. Brooke?
All right, thank you very much. My first question is a follow-up on what you've said on the ENDF's call for TPLF fighters to surrender. So given the previous...
Sorry, Brooke, can you say that again? I didn't catch
the
you.
Ethiopian National Defense Forces call for the TPLF fighters to surrender. So given the previous experiences from the calls that were made both by the government and the National Defense Forces, what kind of results do you expect from this call? And do you think the TPLF fighters would surrender to the Ethiopian National Defense Forces? And the other question is, we've previously seen that the TPLF has been showing captured Ethiopian National Defense Forces members that were held as prisoners of war in Tigray. So has the government ever managed to release some or all of these prisoners of war, or have any of them been released in the past? And finally, well, the country has been going through a lot of developments in regards to political, economic, diplomatic, and military fronts. So when do you think the Prime Minister will appear before the media to respond to some questions from us regarding these developments, especially during the just ended Ethiopian 2013 year? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. What to expect from ENDF's call asking TPLF fighters to surrender? I think the dynamics are always continually shifting. When this is being made, when this call is being made by the NDF, when this call is being made by the federal government, this is again an expression of humanity, an expression of compassion, understanding the challenges and the suffering that the people of Tigray are also being subjected to by TPLF's arrogance and egregious acts and also continued belligerence. So the expectation is compliance, because the people of Tigray deserve to also live in peace. They deserve to live in harmony with their fellow Ethiopians as well. And any obstacle for them in terms of achieving these desires, like any other human being, needs to be thoroughly addressed. And I think it's important that this message is received within the spirit of solidarity that is received within the spirit of understanding that the Tigray region cannot sustain loss of an entire generation of youth, as is being perpetrated by the TPLF as well. So I do believe that there is that need as well, but like I was saying, we're getting reports that they are being forced. So I think if the people of Tigray in unison say enough to TPLF, understanding that this is something that they're putting them for nothing that's going to be recovered, because the interest of the federal government is also the piece of the people of Tigray. The interest of the federal government is the well-being of the people of Tigray. If you do believe that there was a rebuilding program that had been initiated, there's been close to 100 billion birr that had been put in terms of restoring services that had been damaged through TPLF's incursions within the region itself when it attacked the Northern Command. So it's coming from that spirit of understanding that people of Tigray have suffered enough under the TPLF, and it's important to really call a spade from the perspective of those that are being forced to support the militia within the Tigray region. When will the Prime Minister come for an engagement with the media? I think, Brooke, engagement with the media happens in many forms, and I would dare say that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has been one of the leading prime ministers in terms of his engagement with media in various formats, and this has continued. The earliest or the most recent engagement has been in Maizabri with the media as well, documenting his activity with the National Defense Forces. So there's various platforms and activities in which he is engaging, and that will continue to do so. And we'll see in the new within the next 2 weeks as well what those kind of engagements would look like. I thank you guys very much for today. Have a good day.